Hello grade 11 and welcome to your second revision worksheet video. The theme is human rights and namely children's rights. The topic is about child abuse. Read the selection below about the problem of child abuse and its risk factors and then answer the questions that follow. The title, of course, is Save the Children. For a long time, child abuse has been recorded in literature, art, and science in many parts of the world. Reports on children killing, abandonment, and other forms of violence against children date back to ancient civilization. So, of course, this is not a new concept. Child abuse is a very old concept, as old as humanity. The historical record is also filled with reports on weak and malnourished, meaning children who have not been fed well, malnourished children cast out by families. For a long time also there have been groups of professionals who have advocated, meaning defended, the protection of children. A greater understanding of risk factors can help professionals working with children and families identify high-risk situations so they can intervene appropriately. They can interfere and solve the problem. Research has uncovered a number of risk factors or attributes commonly associated with maltreatment. Again, when you see the prefix mal, M-A-L, it means bad, maltreatment, bad treatment, malnourished, badly nourished or fed. Children in families and environments where these factors exist have a higher probability of experiencing maltreatment. However, research has emphasized that while certain factors are usually present among families where maltreatment occurs, this does not mean that the presence of these factors necessarily leads to child abuse. Sociologists have revealed a number of causal factors in child abuse. One is the intergenerational transmission of violence. So it means this violence is transmitted from one generation to another. For example, if a grandfather abused a person's parent, his or her parents will end up abusing him or her, and he will or her will end up abusing their children. So it's passed down from one generation to another. Actually, research has shown that 80% of child abusing parents have been abused themselves. Okay, this is a very important statistic. While only 3% of non-abusing parents had the same experience in the past. A history of the abuser being abused is only one of the causal influences. So this is one cause. Let's see the other causes. The other learned influence, the legitimacy of using violence against children. Violence. So is it okay? Is it legitimate? Is it legal? In our part of the world, I mean, it's so common that a mother or a father would hit their child or reprimand them in a somewhat violent way. It's legitimate. It is done. So another reason is that it's okay. It's not viewed as something bad or frowned upon in general. This explains why researchers often find that the child abusers are more likely than non-abusers to have been raised in homes with a great deal of marital conflict and violence. Marital, of course, related to marriage. Another contributing factor, so this is another factor, is social traditions that view harsh physical punishment as a proper way of disciplining or raising children. So it's okay. I mean, some people in our society was like, okay, you need to hit the child to teach them discipline. This is a very common attitude which leads to many issues in the children's mentality and mind, and will consequently lead this child to abuse their children. Okay, so the author goes on how this is passed. Because of the social approval of physical punishment, child abusers tend to see their abusive behavior as good and proper. You know, sometimes a mother or a father boasts about hitting their child. You know, I hit him because he did so and so, and I put him in a closed room for 3 hours. Some parents in our parts of society would boast about this because it's legitimate. There is no clear law against it, so people view it as okay. This can be illustrated by the case of a father who had severely beaten his two boys, one 5-year-old and the other only 18 months old, in the hospital where the boys were brought in for treatment of multiple bruises and fractures. The father said to the examining physician, of course a physician is a doctor, that children have to be taught obedience and respect to authority. Okay, finally, prevention is the best hope. Prevention. We need to prevent this type of abuse for reducing this type of treatment. Preventing child abuse requires a shared commitment and perpetual efforts of individuals and organizations. So it's not only the parents, it's NGOs, it's the government, it's the community. Everybody needs to work on solving this issue. Much more can be done about the problem. In recognition and awareness, although essential elements for effective prevention are only part of the solution. Yet prevention efforts and policies are what governments put, laws, are real opportunities for helping children. If there's a law against beating children, the child will less likely be beaten. Less likely. Okay, now let's move on to the question part, comprehension part. According to paragraph 4, what are the 2 causes of child abuse? According to paragraph 4, of course, the first cause is that it's passed down. The parent himself or herself was abused. The second is watching their parents and other significant others or adults being in a violent or bad marital relationship. 2, based on paragraph 5, how would you describe the writer's attitude towards social traditions? Justify. The writer's attitude is disapproving and critical. How? The writer refers to the social tradition that considers a harsh physical punishment a proper way of disciplining children. The writer also shows that social approval increases child abuse and then gives the case of a father who has abused his 2 kids and saying that it's okay, this is the only way that kids will learn to respect authority. Number 3, based on paragraph 6, what does the writer suggest to reduce child abuse? Of course, he talked about several things. He talked about awareness, he talked about recognition of the problem, he talked about organizations, communities, and policies by the government to help protect a child. Number 4, what does the first sentence in paragraph 4 indicate about abusing and non-abusing parents? The sentence indicates that child-abusing parents are more likely than non-abusing parents to have been abused themselves. So it's a cycle, it's a vicious cycle. Organizational questions. What type of introduction does the writer use in paragraph 1? What purpose does it serve? So I want the type. Tell me how you said it, how you knew it was this type, and give me the purposes, which are generally 3. The writer, of course, uses historical background, which is one of the 5 major types of introduction. He or she refers to recorded child abuse that dates back to ancient civilization, historical reports and records by families and professionals who are defenders of children's rights. The purpose is to introduce the topic, arouse the reader's attention, and orient him or put him or her in the general atmosphere of the text. What adjective best describes the writer's tone in paragraph 6? The writer, finally, in the final paragraph, he is hopeful and optimistic that something can be done. There could be a solution because he used phrases like best hope. Please, when you take a phrase directly as it is, you need to put it between quotations. And he said much more can be done, and he used the phrase real opportunities. Number 3, what is the thematic relationship between paragraphs 2 and 3? Explain. It is a relationship of addition. In paragraph 2, the writer explains that the existence of risk factors in families increases the probability of child maltreatment. And in paragraph 3, the writer explains that transmission of violence through generations is one factor that leads to child abuse. So hence, it's a relationship of addition. And support, of course, you can say. The following is a poor version of a one-sentence summary. Give us a good one-sentence summary. According to psychologists, of course, a sentence begins with a capital letter and ends with an end mark. This is one complete sentence, giving a complete idea. According to sociologists, abuse is transmitted through generations because abused parents learn that violence is an acceptable way to deal with children. Of course, the chart, when you're analyzing such a chart, okay, you have to look at the numbers very carefully. You have to first of all read the topic, where you get your topic sentence from. What's this table talking about? The percentage of child abuse victims by age in 2014. And the question is, what do the percentages indicate about the relation between age and child abuse? Let's take a look here. 0.3, 0 to 3 years old, 14.8% in this place. 4 to 7 decreased, 8 to 11 decreased to 7.9, and finally 12 to 15 it decreased. So look at those two numbers. Okay, the older the child becomes, the less likely the child is to be abused. Maybe because the child got stronger, physically stronger, maybe physically more resistant, more mature. The parents would count to 10 before they hit a child who is more mature. Okay, so how do we write that? First of all, the topic sentence, we take it directly from the topic here, write it in sentence form. Okay, then our analysis. Okay, we have to write the numbers because they are not a lot. Write them from the biggest to the lowest, of course, respectively. Okay, for each age group. So what do the percentages indicate? Notice how they are falling as the age increases. The percentages indicate that child abuse decreases with the increase in age. Younger children are more likely than older children to be victims of child abuse. Okay, those statements in D are wrong. You have to go back to the text and write the correct statement. On the exam, this is how you should write your answer. Correct statement, 2 points, and write the statement. Research has proven that cases of child abuse are inevitably due to the existence of risk factors in the families. No. The existence of risk factors in families does not necessarily, so this is the problem, mean it would lead to child abuse. 2 groups of professionals who advocate the protection of children have recently appeared. No. Groups of professionals who advocate the protection of children have existed for a long time, as per paragraph 1 in the text. Now, part E, extract. Of course, an extract is taken from the end of one of the paragraphs. You need to tell me what paragraph this extract comes from. Extract A. Nevertheless, meaning however, this issue did not receive widespread attention by the medical profession or the general public until 1962. Although most studies on it have been conducted in developed countries, there is compelling evidence that the phenomenon is common throughout the world. Here, notice, you have a date. We're talking about the background of this issue. Where did they do that? Where did they present historical background? Of course, that was in the introduction. So, extract A is the correct ending of paragraph 1, full stop. Extract B, the concerted and coordinated efforts of the private and public sectors are required here. Notice we're talking about solutions. And public health researchers and practitioners have a chance to play a key role in leading and facilitating the process. That's obviously where the author was talking about the solution, which is in paragraph 6. Therefore, extract B is the correct ending of paragraph 6. Finally, the vocab. You have to go back to context in the text. We gave you the paragraph number. You have to go back to it if you do not have an idea what the word means, okay? Anyway, even if you have a clear idea what this word means, go back to its context. The author might be using it in a different way, okay? So it's helpful to go back. Number one, after we read, poor living conditions mainly from a long, this is the context, from a long period of economic recession, okay, emerge, okay, emerge, when something appears. Number two, Sarah, the British accent during her stay, this is the context clue, in London last year. Sarah acquired, meaning got. Number three, the client or the customer had to threats to get his money back from the dealer, had to resort, go back to, okay? This is a solution, resorting to something, it means finding a solution in it. Number four, if parents are being rough with their kids, authorities, meaning the government, should, to protect these kids, intervene, meaning interfere, as happens in Western countries or developed countries. Okay, so this is it. If you have any questions concerning this text or any of the exercises, please ask me when we meet again. And see you. Please stay safe.